So before we bring on Nev and Matthias to no doubt wax lyrical about Karim Benzema and just the football he's playing at the moment, I thought, to maybe save them 6 or 7 minutes of just sitting there and listening to me talk, I thought I'd go into my deep dive that I just had to do after seeing this Karim Benzema's performance against Chelsea. Unbelievable. And you know me, after I see something like that, I want to put it into historical context. So, what I did after seeing that, it's hard to match individual games. So, I wanted to do something where I looked at, he's now at 6 goals for the knockout stage of this Champions League, and that's only 3 games. And that's really only just over an hour. So I wanted to use that as the magic number to go back through European Cup and Champions League history and have a look at players who have scored 6 or more goals in the knockout stage, round of 16 or equivalent, in European Cup and Champions League history. Before I go into it, I've got to say as well, as you probably know, there's the weird phase between 92 and 03-04 season where the Champions League just came in. So they moved away from the European Cup format, which was pretty much round of 32, round of 16, through to a final, two-legged knockouts. Between 92 and the 03-04 season, we had group stages that acted, well, initially there were 2 group stages that acted sort of as the last 8, so 2 groups of 4, and then the winner of each group would play the final. So that in itself is obviously hard to evaluate against a knockout stage because obviously the format's different. And then later on they went into group stage and then second group stage. Before starting at the quarterfinals, two-legged affairs. So I looked at the quarterfinals, two-legged affairs, and I dropped it down to 5 goals for that. So there were 2 notable performances from that as well. So in scoring 6 or more goals, and Karim Benzema is at 6 now, he has become just the 18th player in history to score 6 or more goals in the knockout stage of the Champions League. I'll run through the names quickly. There's a few you'll know. There's a few that I had to research actually after. So the names are De Stefano has done it 4 times. Puskás has done it twice. Jose Aguas, part of the striker for the back-to-back Benfica European Cup winning sides, did it twice. Eusebio did it twice as well. Jose Altafini did it once. Paolo Barrason did it once. Sandro Mazzola did it once. Altafini and Barrason for AC Milan in their European Cup winning side in 62-63. Mazzola for Inter's European Cup winning side in 64. Gerd Muller did it twice, and between Mazzola and Gerd Muller, there was, I believe, 8 years when no one had done it, 6 in the group stage or the round of 16 and on equivalent. Then Gerd Muller broke it, and he did it back-to-back seasons, 72-73, 73-74. Soren Lerby, who I'd never heard of, played for Ajax, 79-80 season. He scored 7 in the knockout stages. Then Marco van Basten was the last to do it in the old format in 88-89, scoring 6. And then we have 2 notable performances from the late 90s where it was second group stage, then quarterfinal, where Alessandro Del Piero scored 5 in 97-98. And Andrei Shevchenko actually scored 5 of Dynamo Kiev's 6 goals in the 98-99 season and got himself into the top 3 of the Ballon d'Or there as well. with that performance for the next season. So they were the notables from when the format got changed. Then, from Van Basten doing it in 88-89, we had to wait all the way to 09-10, where the little magician did it, Leo Messi. He's done it 3 times. Mario Gomez is the 12th person to do it. He did it once in 11-12. Then Cristiano Ronaldo in that same season burst onto the scene, and he's done it 5 times since. Robert Lewandowski did it once in 12-13. Neymar did it in 14-15. Kylian Mbappe's already done it twice, in 16-17 and 2021. And then the last person to do it, well, not the last person, but the last name to make it on the list, before Karim Benzema obviously added his name to the list, Sadio Mane did it in 17-18. So Karim Benzema joins a list of only 18 people in elite European club football history to accomplish 6 or more goals in the knockout stage of the Champions League, round of 16 or equivalent. But that wasn't enough for me, because I wanted to go further into it. And I wanted to maybe, I wouldn't say fix the results, but I wanted to dive deeper into who these goals were against and if these goals came in clusters, so that maybe some of those names who aren't as well known maybe now will get the true test of who we have on the list. So I think I chose 2 pretty fair ways to do it, and the first way is very fair for me. So I wanted to remove goals that these players who have accomplished this feat, goals that they scored in ties where their team won by 5 or more goals. So back in the day, obviously if Real Madrid were getting drawn against the Cypriot champions, you can expect a 12-2 scoreline. So I wanted to remove those stat padding goals. I wanted to get rid of them. And that was probably the first and most important test that I had to run. And then secondly, I wanted to look at games where players had scored 4 or more goals in a single game, because obviously that's a huge cluster out of your 6. So I wanted to see maybe remove those outliers from that as well. But interestingly, I found something a little bit maybe different when I did that. But the first one, so now removing 5 or more, their team winning by 5 or more goals in a tie against the team, that narrowed my numbers down to only 9 players, or 9 times that this accomplishment had been accomplished. So now, if I'm removing those stat padding games, now Alfredo Di Stefano has done it twice in 55, 50, 56, 57, sorry, 59, 60. Ferenc Puskas did it in 59, 60, and I'll go back to that because that's an interesting little case study, that one. Jose Aguas did it in 61, 62. Eusebio did it in 62, 63. Sandro Mazzola did it in 63, 64. Interestingly, and almost heartbreakingly, Gerd Muller did not accomplish this. But there is an interesting little one there as well with the 73, 74, because maybe he did accomplish it, but I'm still undecided on that one. So I'll let you guys decide that one. And then after Mazzola, it was Messi in 18-19. Cristiano Ronaldo has done it a whopping 3 times, which is incredible. Neymar's 14-15 season, and Mbappe's 16-17 season, and 2021 season. And Kylian Mbappe has already accomplished this twice in such a small space of time, in such a young career. Absolutely incredible. So twice, 6 goals or more in the knockout stage, and their team didn't win. And ties where their team won by 5 or more goals are removed. So incredible. Ronaldo still leads the way with 3, though. So obviously, barring Chelsea capitulating and losing 3-0 at the Bernabeu, now we're looking at Benzema already joining that club. So he would become only the 10th player in history to do it. Sorry, I had to count. Now, what I found with the 4 goals disqualifier, and I'll go to an ambitious disqualifier I tried to put in a little bit later as well. But with the 4 goals disqualifier, I found that it usually coincided with a player's team winning a tie by 5 or more goals. So Di Stefano did it twice, and that coincided. Now, the interesting one that I wanted to get back to was Ferenc Puskás in 59-60. Because here, Puskás scored 12 goals in the knockout stage of the competition, or the round of 16 equivalent. 12 goals. But then I had to remove 4 because they played some Dutch team that they annihilated 12-2 in the round of 16. But he was still at 8. But then with me trying to disqualify for 4 goals, I must now disqualify his famous 4-goal hole in the 59-60 final in the game that many regard as the best final of European Cup history, where he scored 4 and Di Stefano scored 3. I would have to disqualify that, and I'm not going to do that because that's 4 goals in a final. So that has to get an asterisk because that's an incredible achievement. So he still stands at 8. Including those 4 in the final. But that's 4 in a final, so I can't disqualify that. Just quickly back to the Gerd Muller story. So he scored 6 in the 73-74 final. 6 in the knockout stages of 73-74. But the final went to a replay. So I believe it was against Atletico Madrid. I think it finished 3-3 after extra time in the first final, and I guess no penalties back then. And then in the replay, in the final, Gerd Muller popped up and scored 2. So he was only at 4. He got an extra game. He got to 6. But again, those 2 goals are in a final. So maybe you can count that because that's in a final to win it for, I believe they won 2-0, in fact. So his 2 goals were the deciding factor for Bayern Munich on that occasion. So, yeah, that one should probably still count as 6 goals in the knockout phase, even though it does need an asterisk because he got an extra game in that one. Another 4-goal hole that did not coincide with the team winning the tie by 5 or more goals. Leo Messi in 09-10, but let's be honest, he scored 4 against Arsenal in that tie. So it's just a little bit of stat padding there. Because if I contrast that with the next player to have done that, scored 4 goals in a game and not coincide with their team winning the tie by 5 or more goals, Robert Lewandowski in 12-13. If I contrast that, Robert Lewandowski scored 4 in the semi-final, I believe, first leg against Real Madrid. And that was Jose Mourinho and Cristiano Ronaldo's Real Madrid. So, I don't know. Some goals mean more than others. And Robert Lewandowski scored 4 against the powerhouse that was Real Madrid at the time. So, for me, that one stands. I guess you have to stand Messi's, but I don't know. It's a little bit of a cheap one, that 09-10 one. Interestingly as well, there was the Marco van Basten 88-89 season. Now, that can fall under the Lewandowski category because he didn't score 4 in a game, but his team, AC Milan, at the time, won the semi-final against Real Madrid, I believe, 6-1. But that's Real Madrid in a semi-final still, and that's late 80s. So that should mean something. So I did end up putting him in the list with an asterisk. But I believe that one should count as well. And so that was my deep dive that I did to sort of put this achievement in historical context for Karim Benzema, becoming only the 10th player to have ever scored 6 goals in the round of 16 and later or equivalent at the time, without his team winning a tie by 5 or more goals, taking those goals out, and without scoring 4 in a game. Only the 10th player ever. And now, the cherry on top. I went ambitious with this. So I wanted to see who would be disqualified if they didn't score at least 75% of the team's goals in the knockout stage. But I later lowered that to 50% because I only found it happened on 6 occasions. And if you want to include Shevchenko in 98-99 with the 5 goals from the quarterfinal stage for Dynamo Kiev, 5 out of 6, then it happened on 7. But the 6 occasions where a player has scored 50% of the team's goals or more in the knockout stage, Cristiano Ronaldo's done it twice, 12-13, and incredibly in 16-17, where he scored 10 of 20. And that includes back-to-back hat-tricks against Bayern Munich and then Atletico Madrid. Just that's the only thing I can think of that's at the level that Karim Benzema is playing at the moment. In my time of really intently watching football, Messi's done it twice as well. However, Messi in 11-12 he scored 8 of 15, but he scored 5 in a match against Leverkusen, and their team won that tie 10-2. So he's disqualified by both other counts. But then again, in 18-19, he scored 6 of his side's 12 goals, where they were stopped by that Trent corner, may I add. Lewandowski, 12-13, where he scored those 4 goals. So a bit of an asterisk, but he scored 6 of Dortmund's 12 in the knockout stage. And then Kylian Mbappe, who has the highest ratio at the moment in the 2021 season, so last season, he scored 6 of PSG's 9 goals in the knockout stage of the competition. So his record percentage is at 66%. As it stands, Karim Benzema has scored 100% of Real Madrid's knockout stage goals. So that's just a little cherry that I wanted to put on top of that. Obviously, he's still got at least one more game, so that percentage might go down, but then again, he might add to the tally. And then in all probability, he probably has 2 more games after that. So what we're watching right now is something extraordinary, and I just wanted to put that into the context I think it deserves, because it's an incredible achievement, and we should all appreciate it, which I no doubt we all do, because it's extraordinary, incredible. Okay, let's chuck it over to me, Never Butty, talking about the Champions League ties that we've just witnessed. All right, guys, and now, as promised, we have Nev, the regular, back with us, and drummer from the band Snark, Matthias. How you guys going?
Brilliant.
Pretty good today.
Very happy the Champions League's back and not international football.
Good.
Couldn't agree more with
Please,
Matty.
international football be gone.
And Nev gets to watch it over in prime time over in Croatia. Lucky
That's
there.
true.
Yeah, don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. with like you guys do.
Yeah, it's got worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, that time difference is a killer for us down under. Nev, throw it to you first. I don't have any question. I have 2 words, and I'll have the same 2 words for you, Matthias. Karim Benzema. Go. Nev, just go.
He is performing as pretty much the world's best number 9, I think, at the moment. And the last 2 performances, especially in the Champions League against PSG, and then to pretty much repeat it again against Chelsea, it just goes to show how important he has become for Real Madrid. And also touching back on the Real Madrid-Barcelona game as well, and then comparing it to how they played now against Chelsea, like he was a big missing piece against Barcelona, and he just brings everything together and makes Real Madrid click, in my opinion. And they seem a little bit lost when he's not playing. And in all honesty, he could have had 4 or 5, but the 2 headers, my lord. Like especially that first one from about 14 yards out or so, unbelievable. And then even the other one just to top it off, like going onto your back foot, backtracking, like it's very, very hard, and it's reminded me a little bit of reminded me a little bit of the Messi goal against Man United, where there's a cross into the box and the player has to backtrack a little bit and tries to and it has to loop the ball back across the goalkeeper from where it came from, and it was very it was very much of that sort of style, which is and both very beautiful goals.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Marty, say 2 words. Karim Benzema.
Yeah, I think he's just unbelievable at the moment. He feels like he's the best player in the world right now, without a doubt. Like he's affecting games, like big and really important games. So you got to say he's just killing it. And I think Nevin was right in saying that, like the thing about Real Madrid that's missing with him when he's not playing is the goals. He gives Real Madrid the goals. Real Madrid as a team plays very well. They do everything really well. They have other excellent players, but then he just scores the goals, finishes everything, the moves that they make. So I don't know, it's beautiful to watch. I'm really enjoying it.
No, it's ridiculous. And you guys haven't heard the deep dive yet. I said went for 6 or 7 minutes. It ended up going for 17. But I try and put it in historical context, and it's just incredible what he's doing at the moment. I mean, but just from the eye test, you watch it. This, let's not forget, this is in probably just over an hour of football, because he didn't score his hat trick until late in the PSG second leg, and then he scored pretty much his hat trick in the first half. Obviously, that one early in the second half, and what he's done in that span is just play the most incredible football I've seen at this level. Like, I can't put anything close to it. The only thing I could think of, and I say this is a deep dive, is Ronaldo in 16-17 scored a hat-trick against Bayern Munich in the second leg of that quarter-final, and then went on and scored a hat-trick against Atletico in the first leg of the semi-final. So that's the only historical thing that I found close to this, and obviously it's been privileged to be able to watch both of those. But I would even say Benzema's done it with more elegance and style, because I was watching that game, the Real Madrid Chelsea game, and for some reason I found myself supporting Real Madrid and Benzema anyway. But the first half an hour, the performance he put on was unbelievable. Complete striker play. He was dropping into pockets. He was linking up the play fantastically. He was flicking it around the corner to the midfield runners, flicking it onto Vinny. Him and Vinny were linking up fantastic. And then Nevin, as you point out, the 2 headers, but the first header had me shrieking as I watched it. It was it reminded me of and it was even better than this, but it reminded me of Luis Suarez had a header like that in his 13-14 campaign, where I think it was against West Brom at home. Edge of the box, header, top corner, much like that. But Suarez had the advantage of being able to run onto it. Benzema had to readjust, and he got his head onto it, and he put it top corner. It was
He made it look so easy as well.
It was unreal. And that's against Edouard Mendy, who's a tall goalkeeper. And then, Nev, as you point out, that cushioned header, the second one, that ball from Modric. What a cross. I mean, he came up big again as well. He's putting in his old guy performances for Real. This Real story is really exciting to watch what they're doing at the moment. But that, just over an hour of football from Karim Benzema, I can't describe it. It's the highest level of football I've seen played since I've been watching football really intently. I mean, sure, there's been some great performances, but he stitched it together back to back on a second half against PSG and pretty much a first half against Chelsea. So just wonderful stuff. But with all of this being said, we can't get too high because it's only 2 goals. I say that it's away from home, but it's still Chelsea. But Nev, have you lost all faith in this Chelsea team after that performance?
They're definitely going through a slump, and we talked on the last pod how we expected a bounce. They were either going to have a bounce or a slow bleed out. And what we're seeing is possibly a slow bleed out, because there was definitely a great performance by Real Madrid, but also there was mistakes and individual errors by Chelsea in that game as well. And like the most notable one was for the third goal with was it Rudiger with the bad Mendy with the bad back pass. And then
it was kind of both, to be honest.
Yeah, like it was just horrific, and like they couldn't really string together the play. Like it wasn't fluent like it was at the start of the season. They don't seem to all be on the same page, and maybe there is something going on behind the scenes because of what's happening with the sale of the club, but obviously it was a fantastic performance by Real, and Ancelotti got his tactics right, but they aren't hitting their stride when they're meant to be hitting their stride. They seem to be coming off of their stride pretty much in the prime time when the season is coming to a close, and there's probably a lot of factors to that, and it's disappointing considering how they started the season.
And before I throw it over to Vati, I want to hit on 2 points there you make, Nev. Firstly, about the match itself, and just how I thought Tuchel and Chelsea, but Tuchel in particular, he really aided and abetted this Real Madrid performance. I couldn't really believe the tactics because they made absolutely no sense to me. Why he abandoned the 3-4-3, especially the shape out of possession of the ball. He went to a 4-4-1-1 where Mount would actually come infield and try and man-mark Casemiro out of the game. And Reece James would stay higher on the right midfield. So now, unbelievably and inexplicably, he has left the matchup of Christensen versus Vinicius. Why on earth would you leave that channel open and leave Vinny one-on-one against Anderson the whole first half? And I saw it. There was a moment, I think, in the first 10 or so minutes, and I got, because I was, I don't know, subconsciously going for Real Madrid in this game for some reason. But I saw Vinicius one-on-one with Anderson Christensen out wide, and I just thought, danger. In this occasion, Reece James got back in. Vinicius didn't really go at him, and Reece James got back in and he flicked one, I think, over his head to keep possession to Mendy. But I just thought, if they could get that matchup, they are in with a big shout. And they got that matchup time after time in that first half. And Christensen's one of these centre-backs, much like Rudiger as well, who I actually touched on in the last pod. But Christensen's one of these centre-backs who plays in a back three. He is a back three centre-back. He's definitely not a right back, and I even doubt that he's one of the two as two centre-backs.
Yeah,
and that's what... exactly. And so to leave him on an island against Real's second best player is inexplicable for me. On top of that, now you've gone into a 4-4-1-1. You've abandoned your three centre-backs. So, that has the effect that Rudiger now is in a more unfamiliar role as one of the two. And now he's only next to Thiago Silva, who is quite old, who also at this stage of his career plays better in a three. So now I didn't see Rudiger being able to be aggressive when Benzema dropped off around into the pockets around Jorginho and Kante. And it was mainly Jorginho on that side. And that's where you want, if you have three centre-backs, Rudiger could go in and press on that and not let Benzema get the ball and not let him link up play. But when you're one of the two, you have to be more disciplined. And it was either a case of he wouldn't go and Benzema would link up the play, or he would go and there'd be too much space in behind. So now you've completely dismantled your defensive structure that was working for you so well to get you up until this point. So I just couldn't understand those tactical changes from that aspect, especially at the back. And to be honest, they all pretty much paid dividends for Real Madrid. So I really thought Tuchel got it completely wrong and aided and abetted this performance. And And then just before I throw it over to Butty, that second point, Nev, about they're not hitting their stride at this point of the season. And when we've been talking about Chelsea, I feel like I've made this mistake where I've been looking at all their problems in isolation. So I've been looking at the obviously the cloud that surrounds the club with the Abramovich situation in isolation. And I've just said, well, Chelsea have always been used to this sort of instability where managers will change and managers will get into little rifts with the owner or whatever it may be. They're used to dealing with that. Then, Nev, you pointed this out. The fullbacks getting injured were huge to the way they played. And since that's happened, you've seen Tuchel tinker with his formation a lot. So now they're not relying on the 3-4-3, which was really the big improvisation that he made last season when he took over from Lampard that helped them win the Champions League. So now he's gone away from that and abandoned that because of the injuries. And then lastly, the Lukaku situation. You've brought in a player who was meant to take you to the next level, and then that's just been surrounding the club for months now, or it was for a few months around there in the middle. And this player who you've brought in for big money and who's meant to take you to the next level and win you these trophies, he's in a riff with his manager. The manager doesn't want to play him. He wants to go elsewhere. So I think I've got it wrong in looking at all of them as like, oh, well, that doesn't matter. That doesn't. But then you look at all three together, and it's very understandable, I think, why Chelsea look like they're in this slump right now. Matti, what do you think of that?
What do I think of exactly, I suppose, the whole thing about Chelsea's problems affecting them, you mean? Because I feel like it definitely takes an effect on the team. It has to, right? Like the harmony of the club is so important. You look at United, the way the club is run is not very well. It affects the team. There's world-class players in that team, but they don't do very well. So everything that happens in the club affects the players. As well, like one of the things about Chelsea that I guess like the downfall was the fact that they used to be such a good defensive team. Like I can't remember them conceding many goals when they were at their best. You know, in the Champions League last year, I think they only conceded maybe like 2-3 goals the whole season of the Champions League. So like them now conceding so many goals has to probably come down to things like injuries, of course, like you mentioned the fullbacks. Without a doubt, Chelsea, their fullbacks are so important. Alonso's not so good. Not compared to Chilwell, you know, like that's a big loss. And yeah, and also I want to point out as well the fact that it's weird how sometimes, I guess it makes sense sort of in the Chelsea one, but when managers love tinkering with their teams in really like important moments, you know, fucking Guardiola loves to do that. He loves tinkering with his team, you know. He always puts weird teams out there, but yeah, that's all I have to say about Chelsea, I suppose.
And on the flip side, keeping it you, Marty, how much do you believe in this Real Madrid side and how far they could go in this competition? Do you believe that they'll go through this tie and they'll be playing in a semi-final?
Yeah, I think they will. Real Madrid are actually scary. I don't know, like watching them, and especially Benzema. He's such a scary team. They can beat anybody, right? They're for sure one of the favorites, I would say. So I think they'll go past Chelsea. Like they'll beat Chelsea. They're going to play at home as well, and Chelsea are not necessarily flying, so you can't really imagine Chelsea turning it around that much. So yeah, I think it's dead, and I think it'll be Real Madrid and possibly, hopefully, Liverpool in the final. You know, that's what I think.
Okay, so you've gone even past the semi-finals. Nev, what do you make of those bold comments from Matthias?
I'm not sure that they're necessarily bold based on how the teams are performing and I guess their path to the final. So it's not, in my opinion, it's not necessarily bold. Now, with that, I do expect Real Madrid obviously to come into the semi-final and finish Chelsea off, especially at the Bernabeu. And the reason why I think it's even more likely is because I don't think Tuchel could turn it around in a week's time because they're playing already in next Tuesday. Whereas I think a couple of weeks ago when they played the round of 16, I think there was like a 2 or 3 week gap between the first and second leg ties. Now there's only a 1 week gap. So, Chelsea go away, to play in the Premier League this weekend, and then they have a match straight away. So I don't think that turnaround is enough time for Tuchel to fix it. Whereas if it was in maybe 2 weeks' time, then maybe he could come up with something. And
I don't know. He'll have less injury players, like injured and stuff. So.
Yeah, but look, like sometimes the team can hit some form, and like sometimes you just need that extra little break between matches to turn it around. And also touching on Real Madrid, I think that Benzema's gonna be. He's always like it's the obvious thing to say that he's going to be extremely pivotal, but I think he also will be. It will be similar to Bayern Munich last year when they lost Lewandowski. Had they have kept Lewandowski and not got injured, I believe they would have went through against. I think they've had PSG in the quarters. I think they would have went through. If Benzema gets injured at any point before the semi or possibly before the final, if they make it to the final, I think that's it. That's essentially their Champions League run over, because they don't have anyone to fill in that role, even at a 50% capacity. They don't have any replacement for him. Whereas some teams, they can have like a backup striker or a similar type player that can provide that similar type of link up play or goals up front. Real Madrid, in my opinion, don't have anyone to replace him. So long as he stays fit, I think they're definitely in with a shout to go all the way.
Well, if Benzema keeps playing like this, yes, hopefully. I just wanted to touch on the Tuchel point, because you say that you don't believe that he could turn around, and I get the time frame in a week. But also, just to add to that is, I don't know if you saw it, but the prickly post-match interview that he gave, where he was very adamant about preparing properly for the Southampton game, and he said if we play anywhere near like that, we'll get hammered at the Bernabeu. So very negative. And obviously, I don't want to talk about this, but it is a point that he's going through divorce proceedings right now. So,
really?
We know that sort of, like, it shouldn't have an effect, and I'm not saying it is because I don't know him and I trust that he's a professional. But exactly, how can it not? The human aspect must take its toll at some point. So Chelsea have a really big cloud around them, but I totally agree that Real Madrid are heavily favoured to go through this tie now, 3-1 win away from home. But I do believe there's a roadmap for Chelsea to do it. I believe that. So in the first 30 minutes, we've already talked about Karim Benzema was unbelievable, but Eder Militao looked like the joker in the pack for me for Real Madrid. He looked like the guy who could bring the whole thing down by pulling out the wrong brick, because there was that stupid mistake that got him a yellow card, which he'll now miss the second leg, where he was just trying to roll his studs on the ball and Havertz nearly got him behind. He had to foul him. And he's a centre-back who I actually nearly had in my tier one of centre-backs not too long ago. He was probably loitering around there, but he was exceptional in that first leg against PSG until Mbappe wriggled between him and Lucas Vazquez and scored that goal. And since then, he hasn't been the same. He's looked shaky. He's looked like he wants to go in and press places where he shouldn't be pressing. And he's making mistakes on the ball, as obviously we saw. So I know he's not playing in the second leg, but even if we're looking at Real Madrid making the final, he's a player who has to get back to that kind of form that he showed pre that sort of error of judgment against PSG. Because since then, I haven't seen the same player, and it's going to be crucial that him, Alaba, and Casemiro have a strong foundation, a strong partnership between all three of them for Real Madrid. And he can't be the weak link in that if they're going to go to the final. On top of that, the fullbacks, I think, are weak. And just another thing I wanted to add on the sort of what I believe Tuchel did wrong was he had Reece James now playing higher on the right-hand side to go and press Furlan Mendy. If I'm Chelsea, I'm just like, that's Furlan Mendy. If he's got the ball, I'm not worried about him. He's not going to unlock us with a pass. The only thing he could do in an attacking sense is overlap or support from the back. He's just a containing player. I haven't seen anything to suggest from him that he can unlock a team with a pass. So if he's got the ball, what's the problem? Why are we so eager to try and make sure he doesn't get the ball?
Yeah.
So, and on the other side, Carvajal was caught out by Havertz's movement off the shoulder, and Carvajal, he looked a little bit shaky when Chelsea were coming on strong at the start of that game, and obviously he had to play against Mbappe in the last round, but he was being made mincemeat of for 3 of those 4 halves in that. So the fullbacks don't really fill me with confidence, and I think that midfield, while Luka Modric is having a renaissance, it's old. I mean, Casemiro is asked to do so much work, and I believe he's 30 himself, and he's asked to do so much work filling in for those centre backs as Alaba and Militao really want to go and press and go out into wide areas and press the ball in midfield. So Casemiro has to drop in there, but he also has to support Modric and Kroos, who aren't the most mobile anymore, and they aren't the most imposing physically in that middle of the park. So while we can be, I don't want to say blinded because we should be blinded by the performance of Benzema and to a lesser extent Modric and Vinny, but Real Madrid are not as whole as I believe sort of we think they are after this performance, mainly by Karim Benzema. 2 performances, in fact. Because let's not forget as well, against PSG, they were thoroughly outplayed for 3 of the 4 halves in that tie. So I still have question marks around this Real Madrid team, but nowhere near as many as Chelsea. But I still think Chelsea, they're not out of this. So I don't know if you guys have any last thoughts on this tie, or if we want to move on to the next.
I'd say for me, I wanted to say with the Chelsea team, they're brilliant. I don't know. Yeah, I love them. I love watching them.
You mean Real?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's Real, but because of Benzema, right? Obviously, he's beautiful.
Yeah. No, the level is incredible.
Yeah.
Nev?
No, I think we've gone into enough detail about that tie.
All right,
so
Nev, you start us on the next game then. What game do you want to talk about? Give us your thoughts on.
I think the elephant in the room is the Atletico Man City game. Like that was the other big tie of the weekend. Obviously, like we will touch on Villarreal Bayern and that, I guess, upset. However, I think that as everyone expected, that Man City Atletico game went how we spoke about a couple of weeks ago when we said Atletico are just going to put 10 men behind the ball, try play on the counter, try and do their little dark arts throughout the game, try to get the Man City players frustrated, try to get them yellow carded, possibly even red carded, and Man City didn't fall for it, and they managed to get a result that I think both teams are happy with the result. Man City probably a little bit less so, but Simeone, I think he would take, besides a 0-0 or a win, he would take a 1-0 away from home any day of the week because he believes in that crowd back in Madrid to lift the team enough and to, I guess, stifle the Man City players enough to get a 1-0 win at home or even a 2-0 win to actually win the tie, or like a 1-0 just to take it to penalties. So I think that tie definitely went the way it was meant to. However, the second leg, Atletico do need to open up a little bit more, but they might not open up until the 80th minute when they have to throw everything at Man City. So it might be another 85 minutes of the same sort of 60-70% possession by Man City, playing around the Atletico box, and then maybe the final 5 or 10 minutes where Atletico try to regain some possession and come out of their half. That's but yeah, other than that, I think the changes that Pep made were definitely positive, and especially obviously the Phil Foden change, who he definitely turned the game on its head and started to open up pockets of space. And there was a couple of through balls that he provided, besides the goal that he provided, where they almost resulted in goals as well. And I think that he's starting to show how important he is to that team game by game, and he's actually starting to fill that sort of that David Silva role. He's starting to fill that gap that David Silva left behind, and it's pretty amazing to watch him grow into that, considering he's only, I think, 20 years old as well.
And Marty, did you agree with Simeone's tactics in this first leg?
The 5-5 formation that he was playing. Did you see that? It was like literally 5-5. I don't know. Look, I think you can't question Atletico Madrid. They've always done this. This is what they do. It's the DNA that Simeone has in his team, and they had 0 shots and 0 shots on target. They just went ultra defensive, 1-0. Like Nevin said, this is like the worst result they could get. So I think that they'll be happy with this result, and they are going to be confident that they're going to come on top. They're just going to frustrate City, and then eventually get the goals that they need. Even to take it to extra time is a big win for Atletico.
Yeah,
so City going to have a tough time.
Yeah, so the reaction, which I actually can't really understand, because how long has Diego Simeone been in our lives for now? I mean, the reaction was people are angry. Like pundits were angry and just fed up with Atletico's style of play and how they came out, which I couldn't understand, because we know this is what Simeone does.
Yeah.
And you know what? I actually want to take the opposite way, because Nev, you said City's changes changed the game, and that's 100% why they walked away with this 1-0 win. Phil Foden had a brilliant cameo when he came on, and obviously set up the goal for De Bruyne. But in the way, not in the same egregious way as I believe Tuchel did, but I think Simeone actually aided City coming away with this 1-0 win, because in the first half, Matti, as you so rightly point out, Atletico were playing a 5-5-0, 2 banks of 5. Incredible. Just absolutely incredible. But what it meant, and the City players said this after the game, if you think we weren't on it tonight, or if you think our game lacked intensity, you should try playing against 2 banks of 5. And they're right. There was no space to play. The midfield now has 3 men in it, so you can't get a ball into central midfield. There's no pockets of space there. The defence has 3 centre-backs and 2 wing-backs who are playing more like full-backs. So there's no channels to exploit there. We're not getting in behind. And they're playing 30 yards away from their goal. So there's no space to play anything over the top. How do we get through that? And then in the second half, Simeone, and I guess I understand it, but he changes to a 5-4-1, which is still ultra defensive. But now there's a pocket of space for a player to pick the ball up around the central midfielders. And now a centre-back has to go out and press that, and now there's space for De Bruyne to make that run in behind. And that change is literally why Man City have a 1-goal lead. Because I believe if they stuck to their guns and played a 5-5-0 in the second half, because City weren't getting quality delivery into the box and asking Atletico to defend situations where a ball was whipped into the box and they had to defend that, where it's unpredictable, because they weren't doing that well on the night, I think they would have walked away with a 0-0 draw. Obviously, it's conjecture, but their tactics in the first half were working. City were stifled. Everyone was talking about how boring the game is. Great. I don't understand why he tweaked it to a 5-4-1. I don't get it. Because a 0-0 result at the Etihad would have been perfect.
Yeah, it's interesting that he also made us change at halftime. Like, surely you probably want to take that take the game on again in that way, and then just like change it halfway through the second half. Yeah.
And I guess his substitutions as well. I think he probably somewhat got wrong. I think the order of them as well. I mean, I would have probably used if your plan was to change to a 5-4-1 and be a little bit more open later in the game. I would have probably preferred to have Griezmann on the pitch for that stage of the game rather than the earlier stage of the game. And in the earlier stage of the game, why aren't we just putting Cunha in that point of the game? Because I thought he's the type of physical sort of striker who I think could have done better in the first stage of the game, and Griezmann maybe could have exploited them being more attacking later in the game. So maybe he just got it wrong there, but for me, he definitely got it wrong in just tweaking it that little bit. Nev, I don't know what your perspective. I don't know if you want to have a Simeone rant or what you want to say about his style, his tactics.
So look, with that, I disagree with those pundits because we know what Simeone is about. And there's even been times when Simeone's employed the same tactics and he's gotten results, and then he's been praised for it. So I don't get how these same pundits can praise him for the same tactics in one game, but then absolutely criticize him for the same tactics in another game. What is it? Just because English bias is that the reason? And at the end of the day, Atletico, as talented as some of the players that they don't have the squad to compete with a Liverpool or a Man City. So you do have to revert to more defensive tactics. I will concede the point that some of the things that they do, like I saw that like when Grealish came on, they were like playing with his hair and doing that sort of stuff and like constantly touching him and all that. But that's been in the game for years. Like even at amateur level, like I remember like players would be like using their studs to dig into players like heels and toes and stuff like that when like off the ball completely, and like you'd be elbowing and stuff like that. Like that happens even at amateur level, like that sort of dirty tactics that happen off the ball. So and it's all done to frustrate the opposition and put them off their game. And if you're being paid 200,000 a week, you're at the elite level. It's up to you to deal with that and come up with the solutions to overcome those sort of tactics. So that's my thoughts on it. And we've seen similar tactics employed by I'll take it back to 2010 with Mourinho. Like he pretty much planted 10 men behind the ball when he faced Barcelona in that I think it was the semi-final at the Camp Nou. Everyone praised him for that performance. They're like defensive masterclass, this and that. Even though I think they lost 1-0, but they still everyone praised him for that performance and for employing those tactics. Yes, those players might not have done, I guess, the dirty sort of tactics, but I'm willing to bet that they did some dirty tactics that I spoke about just before. So you can't have it both ways, where you praise him when the results do go his way and he gets the 0-0 or he gets the 1-0 for his team, and then criticize him when those tactics don't result in a win or a draw. So I think those pundits are sitting on their podiums or their high horse, and they need to get the hell down, because it's ridiculous that they're saying those kind of things.
Yeah, no, I think it's just lazy. It's kind of lazy punditry to base your opinion on the result. You've got to actually watch what is happening, and you can't be arrogant about the kind of football that you think should be played, because different kinds of football work for different clubs or work for different sets of individuals. So it's just it's lazy and it's arrogant, is what it is. But I know over the years I've had my fair share of gripes with Simeone's football, but I've come to accept it now. And I've come to accept that style of football as a valid way of being effective. I know, probably just to throw a little wrinkle in there, the amount that Atletico spend on him and the amount that they spend on their squad and their group of players is a lot. I think over $500 million or close to $1 billion or something like that. It's a lot of money that they've spent on this playing group. So, but Atletico aren't that club. They're not Real Madrid. They're not demanding that what they want to do is win and they want to ruffle feathers. So Simeone plays into that. So
But they win, though.
yeah,
They
I
win
think
quite a bit.
lazy. Exactly, and so
Yeah, so they do well.
I think it's lazy and it's arrogant. It's lazy and arrogant punditry. But so, Butty, you said something interesting when we'll talk about Real Madrid that you believe they'll be in the final. Why do you think you've lost your faith in City being the ones who can make it to the final?
I just think that Benzema and Modric and those really key players that Real Madrid have can just win any game. Which I just think that whenever they come up against City, even though City are a great team and they're going to be very tough, I think the Champions League comes down to small moments of brilliance more than anything else. And I think Real Madrid will beat them. Yeah, they're just going to find the moments, find the chances, those little things that only the greatest players can create. And I think City only really have one player that can just change a game like that, and that's De Bruyne. Everyone else is great players, but I don't think they can win the game like Benzema can, for example. So I think that's what it's going to come down to. Because I think City will go through against Atletico as well, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're working off that premise when we talk about that. Nev, do you agree with those sentiments that you believe after seeing this first leg that it'll be Real Madrid getting out of this side of the bracket?
While I do agree that Real Madrid have a bigger weapon up front, I think overall, from back to front, Man City are far more superior and they can keep retention of the ball much better. So they're a lot more fluid and on form than what Chelsea are. So
that's for sure. Yeah,
I think that it will then be a much more even game, and they'll pose a lot more of a threat to Real Madrid than what Chelsea have. But I think ultimately, Man City have. I think they don't have a far more superior squad, but I think they do have a superior squad all round, and they should get the job done.
Yeah, what City would do to Real Madrid is expose like the weaknesses. Like you, Keller, were talking about all of the different weaknesses that that Real Madrid defense has. For example, City will definitely expose those, like a lot better than Chelsea has been able to do so far. So that makes it very interesting indeed. Yeah, it's going to be a tight game, 100%. It'll be a very good semi-final, that's for sure.
Yeah, and if that's the one we end up getting, because obviously we've got those two. Yeah, we've got those two teams poised to make it, but I'm kind of torn between you guys because I think Nevin's right in that Benzema is the best player in the game, but in those games as well, the biggest weapon, as he put it. But Man City are superior throughout the
team, yeah.
The other 10 positions, yeah, as a team. But as that goes into as the fact that you've got that kind of a weapon up front, you can take advantage of your moments, like you said, Lati. So my only issue with Real Madrid, because obviously I talked about the blueprint for them not getting through from this side of the bracket. My concern with them is you're asking Karim Benzema to carry this team through the hardest side of the bracket all the way to the final. And he has been unbelievable so far, obviously, but he still has to get through the second leg against Chelsea and then either City, who we expect, or even Atletico. He has to carry his team because he is by far and away the reason that they are here. in this position to look like he's going to be in the semi-finals. And he is in the hottest of hot streaks at the moment. Unbelievable last two halves of football. But now you're asking him to do that all the way to the final. I don't think we've ever said, well, in my deep dive, I talk about players who have scored 6 or more goals in the knockout stage of the Champions League or European Cup. And the thing is, I look to the highest ratios that players have of their team's knockout goals in the competition have been only 6 times has a player got more than 50% of their goals in the knockout stage of the competition. And Ronaldo's done it twice, Messi's done it twice, Lever's done it once, and Mbappe's done it once. And Mbappe's are the highest of six out of PSG's 9 goals in last year's knockout stage of the competition were scored by Mbappe. So at the moment, Benzema has 6 of 6. He's literally carrying them the whole way. So to ask him to get all the way to the final like that will be difficult, and they won't be aided by, if it is City or Atletico, they won't be aided by the tactics like they were against Chelsea. If it's City, now Vinicius has to get in behind Kyle Walker right back. That I haven't seen a winger do, actually. I haven't seen anyone get in behind Kyle Walker. When it's a sprint from the halfway line and you're trying to get in behind him, he is unbeatable. He is so quick. And then if you want to try the other side, you've got João Cancelo, who I don't think you're going to get in behind him either. And then even if you do, I don't know if they have Diaz back by that time. That could be a spanner in the works. But even if you get behind him, it's Edison at the back, and then it's the 2 centre-backs, and then it's Rodri shielding. So Man City are really good at containing the play, as we all know, in the opposition half. So how many of those moments will Real Madrid get? Because Real Madrid were able to get out against Chelsea because of the tactics, and they were able to get through against PSG because of PSG's tendency to capitulate. I don't
just tracking back, really.
Sorry?
No, just say, like PSG, you're playing with 3 players who don't track back, pretty much. So you're going to get past that.
As we talked about in the review of that one. So I'm not as high on Real Madrid making it out. I still think City have to be my favourites to make it out of this side of the bracket. But City could get knocked out by Atletico, and then we have a different proposition, really. Yeah. So we're talking at the end of the first legs, and we need to see the second legs, really. But as it stands, I'm not as bold on Real Madrid, although I'm having so much fun watching all 3 of them, but Karim Benzema in particular, Modric, Vinicius, and Benzema. So much fun to watch.
That's great.
So I think now's
likely to go through out of the 4 teams. Real Madrid are the more likely to go through. I don't City, Atletico, Real Madrid, and Chelsea. Like they're the ones that pretty much just after the first game. Yeah. On this side.
Nev, do you want to put your neck on the line and say who's coming through that side?
Between Man City and Real?
No, all 4. That side of the bracket.
I think Real and Man City they're looking the strongest to go through from.
And who's coming through out of that?
I think Man City. I think they're going to be too strong for Real Madrid, and I think they have the players to deal with the other threats that will actually stifle Benzema's game. So, like you touched on, Kyle Walker should be able to deal with Vinicius. Cancelo should be able to deal with Valverde or Asensio. And the midfield, I think Rodri, De Bruyne and Gundogan, or whoever he puts in there, whether it's Foden or Grealish, I think they should be able to deal with the other midfield 3 of Casemiro, Kroos, and Modric. So they have the personnel to stifle everyone around Benzema that then kills Benzema, similar to the tactics that teams used to employ against Barcelona or Argentina, where you cut off the passing lanes to Messi or from Messi, and then you completely take him out of the game. So as good as Benzema is, and it will be a total credit to him if he can carry that team, and then I think that it will speak miles to how good of a season he is having and how talented he is. But I think that should be the blueprint that Man City should employ, considering how on form he is and how important he is to the way that they play.
Yeah, so I think at this stage we have me and Nev for City and Mati for Real, so that's always interesting when we got the opposite sides of the fence. I think now's a good time to probably go over to the other side of the draw.
Jump the fence,
Yep, and we'll start with Liverpool because I honestly, after this game, I'm pleased with the result. But my main feeling after watching the game and during watching the game was frustration. I was very frustrated with with the, I guess not the performance, because the first half of this game, Liverpool were really good. They played the way they play in it being an open game. They sort of they play in this way where they trust Van Dijk and Allison so much. So what Liverpool do is everyone has to participate in Liverpool's play. And I was thinking about this the other day. They've almost somewhat flipped the balance that you would traditionally see in a team, from where you ask players to protect and take up space and do everything as a big committee, when the team is out of possession. So working as a team and all of that stuff when the team is out of possession. And that's always traditionally been the balance. But Liverpool, for me, have somewhat flipped that, where they sort of attack in numbers and they get all the numbers forward so that they can do everything as a group in terms of having possession and trying to penetrate and trying to create chances. And then in the defensive side, where of the game, they ask the individuals to be the stars. Whereas normally you're asking everyone to defend and do their defensive work and asking the attacking players to be the stars. But really, when I watch Liverpool, especially this season where they're so open, they are asking Virgil van Dijk and Allison to be the superstar players for the team, really. And obviously, so much has been made of Mo, Jota scoring, Mane, but that's my point. They're all scoring in double figures in the Premier League. So now your attacking players are doing it by committee, but the defensive players have to show their individual quality in terms of stopping one-on-ones and stopping chances. And that's why you see so often Allison is asked to make a one-on-one save. And he is the best in the world at doing it at the moment. In one-on-one situations, it's funny because he actually flips the odds into his favour. Normally, if I see a striker going in on goal, I'm thinking that's got to be 85% a goal. But Allison has honestly made it almost a 50-50, maybe even more, because he is so good in one-on-one situations. The way he doesn't go to ground, he keeps his feet just enough, but makes himself big enough so that he can still move to the side if they want to take him on. But if they don't want to take him on, he's still big enough so that he's covering his goal. He's incredible in those one-on-one situations. And Liverpool ask him to be. They say, no, we're not going to protect you. You're going to have to goal keep. And it's the same with Virgil van Dijk. So often in this game, Darwin Nunez was getting the freedom of a half where he was 1v1, or Everton or whoever it was for Benfica making that run. And Liverpool just left Virgil 1v1 against him. And the players shat themselves. I mean, Everton had a chance in that first half where he was one-on-one with Virgil. He looked up and his confidence was crushed, and he never looked convincing when he went and tried to score that goal one-on-one v Virgil, because he looked up and he saw it was Virgil van Dijk. And this guy in a one-on-one situation is almost unbeatable. So I thought that was interesting, a little thing that I've been thinking about in terms of how Liverpool play and how they've sort of flipped this balance. And that's why when you watch Liverpool, you get these super open games, but it does lead to my frustration as a supporter of the team, because I got to touch on the elephant in the room. Liverpool and 2-goal leads. This season, with a 2-goal lead, Liverpool have been terrible. I was doing a little bit of research just while you guys were talking before on it. And I already found in the games as I was scrolling through 6 occasions where we've lost a 2-goal lead this season. And then on top of that, there were more occasions where we would get a 2-goal lead and concede the next goal. I think there were 2 or 3 more occasions this season. That's far too many. To not be able to learn from the mistakes that you've already made in the season 6 times and to concede the next goal like they did in this game where they were so comfortable really frustrates me. Because in this tie, they had an opportunity, and there were also, and I've got to touch on the next elephant in the room, Mo Salah. But Liverpool
This is
also
very
had a
good.
chance to make it 3-0 on the stroke of half time and 4-1 at the stroke of the end of the match. Mo Salah at the end of the first half, Diogo Jota at the end of the second half. So at the end, they walk away with 3-1, but this tie could be completely over. And they could be playing a half second string team in the second leg, be it 4-1 or 3-0 or 4-0 if they go on. Because at 3-0 in that at halftime, that stadium would have been dead. But at 2-0, when they get the next goal, that stadium's alive. Liverpool are hanging on for the next 15 minutes. So they've frustrated me with that. And touching on that Mo Salah chance at the end of the first half, the stat now is Mo Salah, 0 goals from open play in the last 8 games for club and country. He is not, his last couple of months, he's out of, for me, he's taken himself out of the, or not himself because it's a team game, but he's now out of Ballon d'Or contention for this year because his team didn't win the AFCON and they didn't make it to the World Cup in Egypt. And now he's going through this spell, 0 goals in 8 games from open play. I mean, and that chance at the end of the first half, Mo Salah finishes that when he's on form. So he's the big worry for Liverpool's hope of winning all 4 of these, or the 3 remaining that they're going for. So, Marty, pick apart what I've just gone through in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, so many good points you made. I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll start with something a little different then, maybe rather than pick apart some things. But
Yeah.
I'll go with Jurgen Klopp loves making 5 substitutions in the Champions League, and he does it so well, I think. So you were saying, obviously 2-1, the game was at a point, and it was very scary. The team was like shaky. I thought we were going to concede again. To be honest, it was coming, right? And then all of a sudden, 3 substitutions. The team is all of a sudden different. We control the game again, and then we start building from there, and that's how we get the 3-1. And maybe probably you could have scored more goals the second half. Jota missed 1-on-1 as well. So yeah, Klopp just loves doing those 5 subs, and he always complains about it as well. I feel when it comes to the Premier League, saying that he would love to have the 5 substitutions in there as well, but which they don't. But other than that, Liverpool, they just did everything they needed to do to win that game. They should have done it more comfortably, but I'm just happy that it was 3-1 and nothing worse. And now we go against Benfica at Anfield, and it's going to be hopefully an easy, or at least we got a buffer. It can't go that badly, I suppose.
Yeah. And it must be, I guess, annoying for fans of maybe clubs not doing as well as Liverpool at the moment to hear me talking about this after we've won a game away from home in the quarterfinal of the Champions League 3, and for me to have these sort of frustrations. But
Yeah,
I wanted to touch on
we're so lucky to be watching Liverpool be where they are, even though they're very open. Like, it's really exciting, and most of the time, we win. So even though it's scary, even though it's frustrating, because you think, oh, please defend more, but they're creating unbelievable moments. For being a Liverpool fan, you get to see them go to the hopefully the quarterfinals of the Champions League now. Competing against City, who's another brilliant team in the Premier League. It's exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a few months ago, I learned, nearly at the start of the season, I learned that this is the way we're going to play, and that's just what it is. But we're really good at it. So you sort of got to accept it, but sometimes my heart sort of can't take it during some of these games when I think we should just be a bit smarter at times. But I wanted to touch on that sub point and Klopp's ability to do it now, because I I was thinking as well in this game, because obviously we have Mane on the score sheet. We had Diaz on the score sheet, and Jota. Did Jota get the first one?
No,
I
Konate.
can't remember who got the
Beautiful header.
Konate got the first one. Sorry, but Mane and Diaz got one each in this game, and I was just thinking the forward signings for Liverpool, and it's one of these phrases that has rung true for them. They walked into the squad and they just looked like they belong. And that's all the forward signings under Klopp have walked into this squad and hit the ground running from the start. Sadio Mane, you remember his first game for Liverpool against Arsenal? He scored that cracker with his left foot at the Emirates. First game for Liverpool. And he was, when we signed him, I thought 35 million for him. That's a bit steep for Sadio Mane. And then he just hit the ground running and he looked like a world beater from the start. Mo Salah, I think he got 2 at Watford on his debut for Liverpool in the Premier League the next season. And then you have Diogo Jota, who just walked into the team and started scoring goals. And now Luis Diaz is doing the same. So Nevid, I don't know if you wanted to add points on Benfica, Liverpool, or just touch on that point that I've just made about Liverpool's signings and their success rate to be able to look like they belong in a club that's playing such great football.
Well, I didn't get to watch the game in full, so I only saw. I had it sort of next to the Man City Atletico game, but like my focus was more on that, so I only saw glimpses here and there, and Liverpool just seem too open. It's almost as if their mentality is, oh, you can score 1 or 2, okay, we'll score 3 or 4. And they just want to go blow for blow with teams. Whereas I think 2 seasons ago, I think when they won the Premier League, then they seemed really solid and they were barely conceding goals. Whereas, now they're just way more open, like you said. And there were chances there that they gave to Benfica. And I think that if Liverpool were to give those same chances to a better team, like for instance Real Madrid or a Bayern Munich, those teams are going to take those chances and they're going to finish them pretty much 8 or 9 times out of 10, and they're going to punish Liverpool for being that open, in my opinion. So it's going to be up to Klopp to see whether he can sort of tighten it up when he does go into those better games, because who do they have in the round of 16? They also had a slightly weaker opponent where they had Inter Milan actually, but Inter Milan, I think their
champions of Italy.
But their team was a little bit decimated after they did become champions. Like they lost Lukaku and I think
but
2 or 3 other players.
As far as round of 16 goes, that's not a setup.
Yes, definitely not.
Yeah, like it's obviously hard going to San Siro, but it wasn't necessarily the Inter from last year that won the league.
Yeah.
Like yes, the core players were there, but they lost their manager, they lost their striker, who how much did he contribute? Like 30 goals in all competitions. So it wasn't necessarily a gimme like Benfica should be and is turning out to be. But they definitely won't be able to take those same liberties in the semi-final, no matter who they get. But who knows? Like considering how the other tie went, maybe they do end up getting a slightly easier semi-final than what they expected. But yeah, like they're a little bit too open for my liking, and they do give chances to other teams, and like you said, they rely on the individuals to sort of patch up the ship rather than having the entire back 4 or back 5 working together as a unit to even stop those chances from occurring.
Yeah, I want to touch on what you've said and sort of lead into the review of the last tie, but Marty, I don't know if you had anything to say before we leave the Liverpool game to go to what happened to Bayern at Villarreal.
No, let's do it. I like it.
Okay.
It was an interesting game.
Yeah. So to just touch on what you said, Nev, you can't have both though. So like you can't be scoring the rate that we score at and having so many players in double figures and scoring so many goals if we're going to ask players to defend more. But what I will say, and I just want to make this point in terms of Liverpool's tactics in game management. Where I believe they could do better is knowing when they can just sit off and shore it up a little bit. I.e., if they go 2-0 up, instead of saying, let's get the third and let's remain being open, why not for the next 10 minutes just say, let's not concede a goal? Especially when you're away from home and you've quieted the crowd and you've got these 2 goals. And honestly, the Benfica fans kind of looked deferential. They were a bit like, this is Liverpool who have come in here and they're playing like it and they're giving us a lesson and we're almost enjoying watching it. But then the second half, their team was allowed to get into the game and then they were allowed to get in the game for their team. So I will agree in terms of game management, they can manage it better in those moments, but they definitely can't have both. They can't want to score all these goals but then defend as well. So I've come to accept that trade off, even though I've had a rant about how frustrating it is to watch them. But I also want to talk about the sort of pattern of the games that they've been involved in, particularly in Europe, because this tie against Benfica actually reminded me of the last 16 tie at Inter Milan, where I think we played a lot better in the first half of this tie against Benfica, but again, we probably won both first halves. This time we got 2 goals for it, i.e., that's why I think we played better. We didn't get any goals for it against it. But then at the start of the second half, in the opposition stadium, i.e., the San Siro or the Stadium of Light, then the opposition put everything they had and they had to reach probably their highest level. Inter and Benfica, they had to reach their highest level to have those moments, that 15, 20 minutes of domination. But it took a big physical tax out of both teams. And you see that because at the San Siro, we scored 2 goals late. And then against Benfica, when they have us on the ropes, Klopp makes the changes. Again, another game pattern thing. He made the changes at the San Siro, like Mati, you said, and he's so good at making those changes. And then the physical tax tells on the opposition, and Liverpool get either their 2 goals or their 1 goal. So they almost play this tactical style with the physicality of the game, where they're asking a team, all right, we'll be open, and you'll have your moments, but you're going to have to exert a lot of energy to stay up with us. And then when you've exerted all that energy, we still have reserves to go again. We're not dropping off this intensity. We're going to stay up at this intensity. Can you match us for 90 minutes? So that's now the challenge that faces, if it is Bayern Munich, that's definitely the challenge that faces Bayern Munich in the semi-final if they get through Villarreal, which will lead us to talk about the Villarreal Bayern Munich first tie. And Mati, I know you said you were fascinated by this tie. Go into it. What were your thoughts on Villarreal versus Bayern in the first leg?
Honestly, it was a great game of football. Like both, obviously, Bayern Munich played some good stuff at times, and Villarreal was really exciting. They created a lot of chances against Bayern Munich. It was open. It was great. And also the fact that the upset. I never thought Villarreal would beat Bayern Munich, but they proved to be a pretty decent team. And it's crazy when you look at the team of Villarreal. Most of the players are just failed Premier League players. A lot of them are like 30 plus years old, and yet here they are, doing great. And putting Bayern Munich, who I think is a very strong team in Europe, like through a really tough time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the second leg. But this particular game was really good one to watch.
Yeah, and I want to hit on that point you made about Villarreal looked exciting and they created a lot of chances, which goes into what Neva was saying before about if we get a Bayern Liverpool semi-final. The secret is, while Liverpool give away chances, Bayern Munich give away chances as well. And in this game, I thought we saw the deficiency the Bayern Munich can have when Robert Lewandowski is an A, given the service, or B, on his game. Because Bayern, while they push towards the end of the game, and much of that is the small provincial sort of town/city with a population, I think, of just over 50,000, which is incredible that they can beat a team like Bayern Munich. And you said it about the fairy tale, but a little bit of that was them trying to hold on to this famous result for them. So that's why Bayern pushed. But in the game, I didn't think Bayern really offered that much of a threat. And the scary part was they were giving chances away while not offering that much of a threat. So while we talk about maybe Liverpool being too open, and I think we've said this in the past, in past pods I have about Bayern Munich, how I'm not quite as convinced as I once was. This performance doesn't help my conviction levels with this team. I think they've got problems as well. I think you can pick at little things of all these top teams, but they didn't convince me in this game. And like we said of the reviews earlier in the week on the pod, like I said, Goretzka was a huge player for them to get him back. He didn't play in this game. They started Musiala and Kimmich, who I didn't think they got enough out of Kimmich, because when you're playing against a 4-4-2 like Villarreal set up under Emery, that holding midfielder really has to dictate the play, because he's the one who can pick up the ball in pockets of space. And if he does pick up the ball, he can collapse all those central midfielders and strikers around him to come in and press him, or he can get space on the ball so that he can start playing. I didn't think Kimmich dominated the game enough in there. Musiala, I think, was pushing, but he's a young kid. He looks like a really good player, to be fair to him, but having Goretzka in there is massive for them. And honestly, Nyan Zhu at the back has actually become kind of important for this team at centre back, because I thought Hernandez and Upamecano looked a little bit all over the place. And the more I watch Upamecano, the less convinced I am by him. I know it's his first season and he might need to settle in, but I don't think he's had a very good season for Bayern at all. And I think we've already said this on pods, I don't trust that Bayern defence. So I think this result was justified. I think Villarreal could have won 2 or 3, if we're being honest about it. I mean, Pedraza absolutely lashed one wide at the end, near the end of the game, and Moreno had the open goal, albeit from halfway. So Villarreal had big chances in this game, and Bayern Munich, while I still expect them to get through this tie, Bayern Munich, for me, Nev, have big problems as well, if in terms of winning the competition.
So I didn't watch the game because the Chelsea Real game was on at the same time, so I can only really go off of the stats, which don't necessarily dictate the quality of possession or the quality of the chances. Like you mentioned that Villarreal had some golden chances to actually go through. However, if I'm going just based off the numbers, like we go just total shots, Villarreal 12, Bayern 22, shots on target 1 to 4, possession 38% to 62, passes 349 to 563. So to me, as someone who didn't watch the game, that would indicate to me that Bayern dictated the game and were all over Villarreal. Now, if I was to compare that, for instance, to the stats from the Crystal Palace Man City game from a week or two ago, it would probably tell a similar story based on the numbers, where the dominant team is actually creating chances. However, they're just not putting it in the back of the net. And from that, I do believe that Bayern, if they can keep on creating chances, and if Lewandowski can find, a chance or two at the Allianz Arena, they should absolutely destroy Villarreal. But again, watching the game is different to watching the numbers come through, and the numbers don't tell the quality of the chances. So I do expect Bayern to go through, and this result to me is obviously surprising, as it would be to a lot of other people. So that's my take on it, and I think they play in a similar vein to Man City, where they try and dominate possession and they try to just absolutely create as many chances as possible. I think it's a matter of them just putting it in the back of the net, and sometimes you can get games like that where like nothing is going right for you. We've played in those types of games, albeit at a much lower level than this, where you have the majority of possession, and you hit the bar a couple of times. You have some some chances that whip just wide, and then the other team just has one sniff and they manage to put it at the back of the net. And we've coached those types of games as well, where absolutely nothing is going right for you on the day. So I think that's football, and I think it will be a different tie at the Allianz. I think the atmosphere, like watching how like the atmosphere on TV, it looks like a really hostile environment, and it could stifle the Villarreal players, and it could provide sort of like that sort of 12th man environment that could give them the edge to win.
And so finally, before we move on from the Champions League, predictions from this side of the bracket. Matti, give us a prediction from this side of the bracket.
So I think Bayern Munich will beat Villarreal, and I think obviously Liverpool will beat Benfica, so they'll meet in the semis. I just think Liverpool are just unbelievable this season, and yeah, they're just going to beat Bayern Munich. So that's my prediction. Liverpool go through.
And Nev?
I'll go with the obvious results.
A prediction.
Well, yeah, I'll go with the obvious results and say Bayern should go through, and Liverpool should tie up the game at Anfield and get that over and done with.
Ooh, so stopping short of predicting a finalist then. Well, I'm going to do the same then if you're stopping short of predicting a finalist. And the only thing I'm going to predict Bayern to go through as well as Liverpool, and I'm going to predict goals in the semi-final, because they are two open teams and there are going to be chances galore in that tie. So I'm going to predict goals. All right, I'll put my neck on the line and say if that's the semi-final we're getting for 8 or more goals in that tie.
Wow. In the two games?
Yeah, but if it's Liverpool Bayern in the semi, 8 or more goals. Yeah. I was tempted to go 9, but I stopped at 8.
Put a bet in
it. So really, I scoured through all the games in Europe, and there's only one game that we actually really need to talk about, and that's obviously the nigh-on title decider in England, in the best league in Europe, between probably the two best teams in Europe. This is a massive match in terms of the destination of the title at the Etihad on Sunday. Nev, give me your thoughts going into this game.
I think you hit the nail on the head with say that it's pretty much a title decider, and it looks from a narrative perspective, it's shaping up to be one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game of the season, across all the leagues, just because of how close it is and the story behind Man City dropping, pretty much what it was, a 14-point lead since Christmas. It's made it all the more interesting. Whereas if it was still that sort of 10 to 14 point gap, it would be, I'm definitely going to watch this, but it wouldn't be that sort of necessarily that mouth watering tie that everyone is talking about. It's just more like where even the neutrals are talking about it. But it obviously still would be a very big tie and one that people would watch. But I think this will bring also people that don't necessarily watch the Premier League to want to watch this game, just because of how big it has become based on Liverpool's comeback, or you could say based on Man City's ability to drop the ball. If I'm going to have a prediction for the game, like what you mentioned before, where you say you're predicting goals between Bayern and Liverpool if they make the Champions League semi-final, I predict goals in this one. I think that it will be I think it will be 4 goals in the game, whether it's a 3-1 or I don't think it'll be a 4-0, or like a 3 or a 3-2 or something like that. I don't necessarily think that it will be a draw, because I don't think it's in either team's mentality to play for a draw. So I do think that there will be a winner out of this game, and I do think it favours City, just because they are playing at home, and at the back they are more closed up than Liverpool is. And like you mentioned before, Liverpool do seem to open up and try to go blow for blow. And also with that, if Salah can't hit his form in this match, then you're going in with a sort of blunt weapon.
No.
You're going in with
It's
a
never
blunt weapon. You're going in with a blunt weapon for this match. Yes, he'll still provide a threat and draw players in and draw players away from other players, from other teammates around him, but he isn't over the last couple of weeks. He hasn't proven to be necessarily that goal threat where he can get you two goals in a game or even 3 goals in a game. But if he decides that this is the game to turn up, what a statement that will be by him as well. So I think overall, though, City have more tools to get the job done. And I did say that neither team will play for a draw. However, a draw does favour City a lot more.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
So I'll leave it to the resident Liverpool boys to pick apart my prediction and my thoughts, and see what you guys have to say about it, and then maybe I'll pick apart what you guys say.
Well, Marty, I felt Marty itching to come to Mo Salah's defence there, so the floor is yours, Marty.
I just think that Mo Salah is not a blunt weapon. He may not be scoring goals right now, but all it takes is 1 goal. And Mo Salah has had moments through his career at Liverpool where he's got a few games cold, and then a big game came along. He would score 2 goals, we win the game, and then all of a sudden he's back. He's back in absolute form. The guy loves big games. He loves them. So I just think that, yes, it could go wrong for him, but for the most part, I think Salah is going to find a moment where he's going to score a goal, because he keeps getting chances. Like, you watch him play the games that he's been playing, and he still gets the chances. It's like has one-on-one situations all the time. All it takes is get 1 goal, you're back feeling amazing. You've scored a goal as well, which is a big deal. And yeah, I don't know. I just think,
but
it's definitely a big game, though.
From a sporting perspective, though, isn't what you described just now, wouldn't that be the definition of a blunt weapon? So he's still a threat. He can still, I don't necessarily want to come off violent here. You can still kill someone with
Lukaku is a blunt weapon.
Yeah, you can
but Salah is not Lukaku. They're not in the same situation.
You can still hurt someone with a blunt weapon. It's still a weapon at the end of the day. But the reality of the situation is he has not scored from open play in 8 games, or whatever it may be, or in 2 months or 3 months that he hasn't scored. So, and yeah, like sure, he might be able to get an assist or two, but and yes, I'm not denying that Man City will be worried about him. That's 100% sure. And I did say that he will still draw players. He will still draw one or two, definitely one, but like even 2 or 3 players to defend him, which will create space around him. But I don't think that they're as worried about him as what they would have been maybe a couple of months ago when he was scoring for fun. And yeah, you said he's a big game player. What a perfect game for him to re-announce himself, and especially considering that you're coming to the tail end of the season as well. But
yeah, I think another thing to touch on Salah as well. I feel like he's definitely going through a bad moment. Like if you look at, he's lost the final of the African Cup. Like he missed the penalty to get, well, not to get Egypt to the World Cup, but to at least give them the chance to get themselves to the World Cup. So he's definitely going through like a rough period. But it's only like a player like that where he does the right things always. It's just a matter of time before he gets back into form. You know what I mean? The guy is unbelievable. All he needs is just a little bit of form, one thing to go his way, and he'll be running with that. It's just a matter of time, basically. And what a better time, like you said, than this City game, right? I don't know. I have faith. I have faith in the Egyptian king.
I thought Mohammed El Neni was the Egyptian king.
Well, it seems like you guys think that a lot of this game rests on Mo Salah and his ability to find some form.
Not necessarily.
I was going to say.
I think he will find form, but it's not on Salah. It's like Liverpool have so many more threats than just Salah, right? And so does City, to be fair. City have some very good players, so yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think I don't like trying to make predictions with this Liverpool team because they almost play a style that I haven't really seen before in their willingness to give up chances. They almost give up chances just so that the game can be open, just so that the opposition do commit players forward, and just so that the game continues to be box to box. Let's go, let's play like a basketball match. So it's really hard to sort of predict what's going to happen in Liverpool games, especially in a game like this where they're going to play against a team who are just every bit as good as them. Yeah. So who can play that style as well. And so it's almost impossible for me to predict. But one thing I will predict is that I don't believe Ruben Diaz will be back in time. So I believe it will be John Stones at the back. Correct me if I'm wrong, for anyone. Yeah, so I think a lot of this game is going to hinge on John Stones' ability to be calm in possession when Liverpool apply their pinch press on him through Salah and Mane, who I expect to be the wingers, but Klopp may change it. He may put Diaz in this game. I mean, he's got the options. But when Liverpool apply that pinch press and force him to play the ball infield, how secure, how comfortable can he be? And then obviously defending the channels if Liverpool are able to turn over possession, whether it be from him or from other players. Can he defend the space to the side of him? It wouldn't surprise me if Guardiola maybe employed Kyle Walker. He almost does play as a third centre-back anyway, even when they play a back four, but he might be even tighter to John Stones to really clog up that channel. So it'll be interesting to see if Liverpool can find a way through that. If they do that, because Liverpool want to go forward and they want to go forward quickly, what happens when they can't go forward quickly and the central midfielders have to start dictating the play? And I think that's one area where City really have more quality than Liverpool in the centre of that park. But Thiago in recent weeks has been huge. So
he's been
again,
very good,
interesting to see if Klopp starts him, if he expects that to happen. So he is a player who can bring that dimension of Liverpool controlling the play. But all in all, I just think this is really exciting. From the top of my head, I can't. The last time I think we had a somewhat title decider, well, I can't think of it, but the last time we had anything close to this would be that first season that City won the title, where it was City versus United at the Etihad. Vincent Kompany scored the only goal in the game, and he brought the gap back to 5 points, but still going into that game, City were 8 points back. But obviously, we all know what happened, and that win turned out to be the catalyst for them turning it around. Maybe the only other two I can think of, I think Arsenal in the early 2000s went to Old Trafford and secured a win over there that pretty much sealed the title for them. And then I believe it was either the late 80s or early 90s where the infamous moving ball, as all Liverpool fans will claim, but where Arsenal went to Anfield and won 2-0 and snatched the league title from Liverpool, the Division 1 title. So, but yeah, it's off the top of my head, I can't think of 1 versus 2 in this position this late in the game. Almost a final like sort of thing, just because these teams' ability to win games week on week, as we saw in that 18-19 title race, where, funnily enough, the game was played in, I believe, February, but City won 2-1, and that ended up being the decider for that title that early in the season. And so I think it's completely fair for us to think that this will be the title decider for this. So absolutely huge game. I don't know if my nerves are going to be able to take it, but what a juicy game we got. Really spectacular, really. And I don't know if you guys have anything to add on that.
I think that the way that this only settles it as like the title deciding game is if City win. If City win, I think there is pretty much no chance that Liverpool win it. But if, for example, we win it, we still have very tough games remaining. A lot tougher than what City have. So I don't know. It's a weird way. It's kind of like a final. It is, isn't it? But it isn't at the same time, huh?
Yeah, no, you make a really good point. City win it, it becomes near impossible just with their
4 points.
Consistency.
Two games that they have to drop points.
But if we win it, it's only 2 points, like you say. So no, that's a really good point. If Liverpool win it, there's still a lot of fighting to be had.
I mean, but it puts the ball in Liverpool's court. So like we have to win every game, and it's ours. That's it.
Yeah, and Nev.
I think I agree with that point. I think that Liverpool have a slightly tougher run in towards the end of the season. Like you guys have United still to play. You guys have a derby against Everton, which look, based on how Everton's playing, that and it's at Anfield, that should be a gimme. But you also have Tottenham as well.
It's never a gimme against Everton, though.
Yeah. I'm not sure
Tottenham,
why.
that's a huge one.
I'm not sure why, but United's coming up twice, unless that's a friendly game on July 12th. So I'm not sure what's going. Club friendlies. Okay, yeah. So that's not a league game. So yeah, you have United and Tottenham and Everton at home, which just because it's a derby, it could be difficult. Could be. But based on how Everton are playing, I don't expect that to go any other way than Liverpool's.
It could be the coffin, like the nail in the coffin for Everton in that game, maybe. Or imagine if Everton save themselves and stop Liverpool from winning the league. That could be. Honestly, that game is huge. It's so much line on that.
They're all huge.
No, well, in this run-in, absolutely.
But imagine that, like that's the is that the third last game of the season? Is that
so we play
what match day is that?
The Everton game, you mean?
Yeah.
So it's pretty much. So we play City, we play United, we play Everton.
Okay, so that's the pretty much fifth last game of the season. So imagine that, like Everton to stay up, they need to ruin Liverpool's title chances. That's huge.
Yeah, I guess the good thing about that game is that it's not necessarily right at the end of the league, I guess, where like the points, it's like it's do or die pretty much. So maybe that is a bit more in the favour for Liverpool, maybe.
Imagine that being the last match day of the season, like match day 38, Liverpool at Anfield, and Everton managed to like snatch a draw or even like a dingy like 1-0 win, and that stops you guys from getting the title. Like, Holy crap! Like what
Or
a story that would
Liverpool.
be.
I like the story more of like maybe Liverpool win 5-0, Everton get relegated, Liverpool win the league. Happy days.
Yeah,
I
like
like
you
that better.
you being a Liverpool fan, but like I think for the non-Liverpool fans and the neutrals, I think it's much more funnier for the Everton the Everton to stay up story.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's
Yeah.
true.
But like I'm not sure what you guys if you guys want to like if you guys want to shortly transition into a little bit about Everton, considering they played on Wednesday night against Burnley of all teams and dropped points to them. So do you guys want to touch on that before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I don't want to see Everton go down, but I'm kind of enjoying to see them struggle a little bit. But I wish that I want them to stay up, find that little bit of something that maybe Lampard magic. I don't know, to keep them up because I don't want to see them go down. But that game against Burnley was, first of all, was not a good game at all. Like not an entertaining game necessarily, but it was just so sad to see how like a team like Everton, with the money that they spend, can be in such a bad place because yeah, they're both fighting for relegation, obviously. So it's almost like a 6-point game.
No, I agree with you, Martin. I think I agree with you wanting Everton to stay up because I always think it's better for your club if you can have a local rival who plays in the same league as you and you can play against them.
Yeah,
But obviously, I can think of worse teams. But and you talk about the Lampard magic, but it's interesting because a lot of the narrative around Lampard at the moment is well, his job's not 100% secure, and a lot of people are questioning that Everton sort of made this hire not expecting to be in a relegation battle, but now they are, and they've got a unproven Premier League manager trying to stave it off.
yeah,
So this it could be that he has the magic, or it could be that this is one of the shorter tenures we've seen at a club, that they might have to bring in Big Sam or someone like that. So
I don't know.
uh,
It's they just got it so wrong, Everton. So wrong. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah, we're like it's almost like the lesser version of, we talk about PSG and we talk about Manchester United, how they're getting it wrong. Well,
Yeah,
Everton aren't that stature of club, but they've got it wrong just as badly, it seems.
it's probably even worse if you get relegated. To be honest, like
Yeah.
if you stay up, then that's okay. But getting relegated, oh
Well,
god,
they've
But
never been out of the top flight of English football, so
really,
you know what else though? Everton are going through. They're not going through the same situation as Chelsea, but they're going through a similar situation with Chelsea with the owner, because Usmanov
Mm,
did he own like 50% or something like that? He did own a pretty big stake in the club, and he was a major financier
yeah.
to the club in the last couple of years. And were they going to build a new stadium as well, or upgrade the current one? And now that's going to be put on hold. Like
Well, for sure now, yeah.
they are just so poorly run. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this on another podcast or if I just mentioned this like to you guys off air, but appointing Lampard was the worst decision that they could have made, considering the situation that they were in. They were, even before appointing Lampard, they were in a relegation battle. They were, I think, yes, they had 2 or 3 games in hand, but they were only like 6 points above relegation. And Lampard's only what? He's only got them. Has he gotten them like 1 draw or something? Like he's
No, I think he's got to win somewhere,
I,
but
I,
yeah.
but he's not. He's never, as a player, he's never been in that situation to have to battle for his life or for the club's life in the Premier League, and he just does not know that type of adversity, and I don't think he has the tools to necessarily cope with it. And it's not any fault of his own, but it's just a really bad appointment by Everton, and they should have either stuck with Benitez because he's sort of done it with he sort of did it with
He's
Newcastle.
definitely done it with Newcastle. Yeah.
Yeah, he did it with Newcastle. I think what was it 2 years ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
And either that or they should have stuck with Duncan Ferguson till the end of the season as an interim, or Caleb, you dropped Sam Allardyce
Big
as a
Sam.
name. Yeah, like they should have gone with one of those three options, and then in the summer Frank comes in and he has the entire preseason, so he has about 2 months before the season kicks off to work with the team, work with the young players, bring in some players on loan or some new signings, and that would have been a perfect scenario for Lampard to come in. But right now, he walked into a burning room. Like it's like that meme where is that dog that's just sipping the tea or the coffee and like everything's burning around him. It's like, this is fine. Like that he walked into
yes.
that situation, and he's, in my opinion, he's been thrown under the bus pretty much. And
Or maybe Everton knew they were going down, and Lampard is a good championship manager. So,
but he's gonna go down as the manager that relegated Liverpool. Not Liverpool, Everton. I bet Everton fans would love for that statement to come true. But he's gonna go down as, if Everton get relegated, he's gonna go down as a young manager that relegated Everton, one of the biggest and most historic clubs in English football, and that is not going to be good on his resume at all. So it's going to ruin him for the next couple of years potentially, and put that sort of black mark on him where clubs won't necessarily want to touch him.
Well, I think when you start a pod waxing lyrical about Karim Benzema and how he's playing some of the best football we've ever seen in since my time of watching football, and then you get to the point where you're talking about Everton, I think that's time where you wrap it up. So, gents, it's been fantastic. It's been great to talk about those Champions League first leg ties, and then give us a little preview into Liverpool City on the weekend. And then if people were still listening by then, they got to hear a bit about Everton. Who says we don't care about the smaller clubs, hey? Guys, pleasure as always. Fantastic having you.
Yeah.
Take care.